The night the bus broke down on the outskirts of Blackwood Hollow, Marcus knew he should have turned back. The forest surrounding the old road was too silent, too heavy, like it had been holding its breath for decades. Even the crickets refused to sing. The driver, a man with tired eyes and nicotine-stained fingers, muttered under his breath while checking the engine. "Old place, shouldn't be out here after dark." Those words echoed in Marcus's head as he stepped off the bus, boots crunching against gravel that seemed older than the road itself. The headlights barely cut through the mist curling across the ground. And just beyond the tree line, almost invisible, there it was, an outline. Tall, skeletal, crowned with a broken iron arch that read, "Hollow Creek Carnival, where dreams never die." The letters were rusted and bent, half swallowed by vines, yet somehow they gleamed faintly in the moonlight, as if the carnival itself had been waiting for someone to notice it again. Marcus swallowed hard. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was just a traveler passing through, but something about that sign pulled at him, like a whisper curling into his ear. A cold breeze rose, carrying with it a faint sound. Music. But not any music he'd ever heard before. It was the kind of warped carnival tune that might play on a child's wind-up toy, slow, distorted, and badly out of tune. It shouldn't have been possible. The carnival had been abandoned for nearly 50 years. Yet the melody grew louder. Marcus's hand trembled as he pulled out his phone to check for a signal. Dead. No bars. Just the reflection of his own pale face staring back at him. And behind him, in the faint glow of the phone screen, he swore he saw movement, like a shadow stepping forward from the trees. He spun around. Nothing. But the mist seemed thicker now, curling around his ankles, crawling up his arms like icy fingers. His heart raced. Against all logic, against every instinct telling him to run back to the broken-down bus, Marcus stepped forward toward the carnival gates. The rusted iron groaned as he pushed the arch open. And then, everything changed. The forest noise vanished completely. The sound of the bus, the muttering driver, even the distant hum of the highway, all gone. Instead, Marcus stood in a silence so heavy it pressed against his skull. Then the lights came on. Strings of carnival bulbs, cracked and dust-covered, flickered to life overhead. Ferris wheel spokes creaked in the distance. A carousel spun lazily, its horses frozen mid-gallop, their painted eyes too lifelike in the pale glow. Marcus stumbled backward, breath caught in his throat. The carnival was alive. Marcus's legs trembled as he cautiously stepped onto the cracked pavement of Hollow Creek Carnival. Every step echoed like a gunshot in the unnatural stillness. The fog had thickened, curling around the base of the Ferris wheel like smoke from a fire that had long burned out. He could see faint shadows moving inside the attractions, though no breeze stirred the air. The entrance of the main tent loomed ahead, flaps torn and fluttering like tattered wings. A faint light shone from within, orange and warm, but it didn't feel inviting. It felt deliberate, as if it were watching him, beckoning him closer. He tried to rationalize, maybe it was a security light left on, or someone squatting inside. But the thought felt wrong, almost absurd. He pushed the tent flap aside. Inside, the carnival smelled of dust, mildew, and something else, metallic, coppery, like blood long dried. The floorboards creaked beneath his feet. Rows of booths lined the interior, peeled paint on the shooting gallery, toppled chairs at the concession stand, a clown mask lying face down in the dust. But what made Marcus freeze was the sound, soft, childish giggles, echoing from somewhere deep within. The sound came from everywhere and nowhere. The further he stepped inside, the louder it became, and yet he saw no one. Not a soul. He raised his camera. The lens fogged instantly, as if the very air was resisting documentation. Shaking, he turned the camera toward the center of the tent. A carousel horse slowly rotated in place, though there was no mechanism to move it. Its eyes, painted black, seemed to follow him, and then, impossibly, blinked. Marcus dropped the camera in shock. The lens shattered, glass scattering across the floor. Then came the whispers. At first, just a thread of sound, barely audible. But they grew, spiraling around him in the tight, suffocating air. "Come, play." The voice was a child's, soft and broken, yet layered with something ancient, angry, and desperate. Marcus's skin crawled. He stumbled backward into a booth, knocking over a stack of tin cans. They clattered, echoing, and suddenly everything went silent. He dared a glance toward the exit. The tent flaps had vanished. In their place, a solid wall of shadows stretched endlessly in all directions. Panic set in. The giggling returned, but now closer, surrounding him, moving just at the edge of his perception. Marcus ran. The floorboards moaned underfoot, and the shadows seemed to lean toward him. In the distance, he saw the Ferris wheel slowly rotating, though there was no wind to power it. The lights flickered in patterns that didn't make sense, red, blue, green, then nothing, plunging the carnival into darkness. And in that darkness, the whispers grew louder, now multiple voices overlapping. "Play with us, don't leave, never leave." His mind spun. Logic dissolved. He had read about haunted places, abandoned carnivals, stories of children who disappeared in the 1950s, tales of Blackwood Hollow whispered by locals, but nothing could have prepared him for this reality. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the mist. Small, pale, dressed in what looked like a faded carnival costume. The child's eyes were hollow black pits, and its smile stretched too wide. It held a lantern that glowed with an unnatural light. "Marcus, come," it said, voice melodic and horrifying. He tried to move, but his legs were frozen, rooted to the cracked pavement. The lantern's light began to pulse, and the shadows responded, creeping forward, twisting, elongating, swallowing the walls and floorboards into nothingness. Then Marcus noticed the other figures emerging, dozens of children, each clutching lanterns, all wearing expressions of eerie joy. Some were laughing, some were crying. But all of them were watching him, and he could feel their eyes digging into his soul. He stumbled backward, tripping over a rope, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot up his arm, but he barely noticed. The whispers had turned into chanting, a chorus of voices chanting in unison, a language that was not English, not anything he recognized, yet it made his bones ache with understanding. "Stay, stay forever." The first lantern floated toward him, hovering just inches from his face. The child holding it tilted its head, as if curious about the fear etched into his expression. Marcus's mind screamed at him to run, to scream, to fight, but the words caught in his throat. A sudden memory flashed, stories of the missing children of Blackwood Hollow, never found, never remembered. Somehow, he knew now, they were here, trapped, feeding the carnival, the shadows, the whispers. And now, it wanted him too. He scrambled to his feet, looking desperately for a way out. In the distance, a door appeared, a faint light spilling through its cracks. It was the only escape. Adrenaline surged. He ran toward it, ignoring the whispers clawing at his mind, ignoring the hands that seemed to brush against him from the shadows, pulling at his clothes, his hair, his skin. He reached the door and flung it open. Outside, the mist of the forest greeted him like a cool hand on a fevered brow. He collapsed on the gravel, gasping, the sounds of the carnival now distant, faint, almost a memory. The moon shone down on him, pure and indifferent. But as he caught his breath, a faint giggle reached him through the trees. And somewhere, deep in the darkness, a lantern floated in the fog. Its glow pulsed, as if beckoning him back. Marcus had barely slept after his first night at Hollow Creek. The lanterns, the whispers, the hollow-eyed children, they haunted him in dreams, crawling through the edges of his consciousness. By morning, he felt as if part of him had been left behind in that foggy carnival, a fragment tethered to something ancient and hungry. Ignoring the town's warnings, he returned. Locals avoided speaking about the carnival, and those who did warned him with hushed tones, "It doesn't let go. Once it calls, it keeps calling." But curiosity gnawed at him. He had to understand what had trapped the children for decades. The forest seemed alive this time, every rustle in the underbrush setting his nerves on edge. The path to the carnival twisted unnaturally, changing subtly each time he looked away. By the time the Ferris wheel came into view, the mist was thicker than ever, curling around his legs like grasping fingers. As he approached, a figure emerged, another child, this one holding a lantern that flickered between orange and green. Unlike the others, its face was pale but not hollowed, its eyes gleamed with intelligence, almost as if it understood him. "Don't go in alone," the child said, voice melodic and urgent. "They're waiting." Marcus swallowed hard, doubt gnawing at him. But before he could respond, the carnival gates slammed shut behind him. There was no wind, no sound, just the heavy, oppressive silence that pressed down on his shoulders. The carousel started again, creaking and grinding, and this time, Marcus noticed movement among the shadows. The children were back, but not stationary, they circled him, laughing, crying, chanting in that alien tongue. Their eyes followed him wherever he turned, and every step felt heavier, as if the ground itself resisted him. He ventured deeper into the carnival, past the broken midway games and shattered stalls, each step revealing glimpses of horrors that seemed impossible. Dolls with cracked porcelain faces moved slightly when he wasn't looking. A clown's painted grin stretched wider than physics allowed, its head tilting to observe him as he passed. Then came the tent at the heart of the carnival, the main tent. From its entrance poured a light so bright it shouldn't have existed in a place long abandoned. Shadows stretched outward, alive, curling and twisting as if trying to pull him in. Inside, the air was thick, suffocating. The smell of old earth, metal, and something sweet and rotting filled his nostrils. Marcus's flashlight barely penetrated the darkness, but he could see shapes, dozens of figures, children of every age, floating midair, lanterns clutched tightly in their hands. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their mouths moved silently, forming words he could somehow feel rather than hear. "Stay, stay forever, join us." Panic set in. He stumbled backward, nearly toppling over a row of broken chairs. A sudden realization hit him, the carnival itself was alive. It wasn't a place, it was a predator. And the children were its minions. A low, guttural hum started from the floorboards, vibrating through Marcus's feet, up his spine, into his chest. The shadows pulsed in rhythm with the sound, growing thicker, darker, pressing closer. He remembered the first child, the one that had spoken. Marcus turned toward it, desperate for guidance. But it was gone, vanished into the darkness. In its place, the whispering chorus intensified, voices overlapping, shrieking in a language older than memory. From the far corner, he saw movement, a figure shaped like a woman, tall and thin, draped in what looked like carnival banners tattered into strips. Her eyes glowed red, and every step she took left scorched marks on the ground. Marcus froze. The woman's presence dominated the space, her voice rising above the chorus. "You were warned, yet you return." The children's chanting grew frantic, almost joyous. Marcus tried to retreat, but his feet refused to obey. Every shadow around him reached out, clutching, pulling at his limbs. His heart pounded in terror and disbelief. Desperate, he remembered the camera he had smashed the night before. Scrambling to the corner, he found the shattered pieces and held them in his hands, imagining if it worked, he could record proof of what was happening. But the shards only reflected darkness back at him. The female figure advanced. Marcus backed into a wall, feeling the shadows wrap around him, whispering promises of eternal play, eternal torment. Lanterns floated above him, casting eerie lights that warped his perception of the room, making it seem endless, infinite. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the air, a scream both human and otherworldly. The children recoiled, scattering like smoke. The figure paused, and in that brief silence, Marcus noticed something, a doorway behind her, barely visible, faint light spilling through. Summoning every ounce of courage, Marcus lunged toward it. The shadows fought back, clawing, twisting, pulling at his arms and legs. Pain seared through him, but he forced himself forward, adrenaline guiding every movement. As he crossed the threshold, the light engulfed him. The whispers became screams, then faded into silence. He collapsed, gasping, in the cold forest outside the carnival. The Ferris wheel was gone. The tents, the lights, the floating children, all vanished. But Marcus knew it wasn't over. The carnival hadn't let him go. Its memory, its hunger, and its whispers had latched onto him, marking him as part of its story. And somewhere, in the distance, a faint, warped tune played, the music of Hollow Creek Carnival, calling, waiting, patient. Marcus stumbled through the fog-drenched forest, each step heavy with dread. The carnival's whispers clung to the trees, twisting like claws around his mind. Lanterns floated before him, dim and flickering, revealing faint silhouettes of children with hollow, black eyes. A tall figure emerged from the mist, draped in tattered banners. Her red eyes burned into him. "Why do you resist?" she asked, voice like hollow wind. "This place, it wants you. I'm leaving. I won't be part of this." Marcus shouted, stumbling backward. The figure laughed, a sound that split the night. The children's whispers swelled into a cacophony, merging with a warped carnival tune. Marcus realized then, the carnival lived not in buildings, but in its victims. Fear fed it, and now it fed on him. A lantern floated closer, showing his twisted reflection, eyes wide with terror. "Stay, stay forever," the whispers urged. Marcus stepped into a shallow creek, icy water soaking his shoes. The moon reflected off the surface, distorted, flickering. Then he understood, the carnival thrived on fear. Confront it, and he might survive. "I am not yours," he yelled, stepping forward. The children darted toward him, vanishing into the fog. The woman advanced, banners like black flames, eyes searing into his soul. She raised a hand, commanding the shadows. Marcus's legs wavered, but he forced himself onward. Through the fog, a single child appeared, holding a white lantern. "Follow me, the way out is through courage," it whispered. Marcus grasped the child's hand. The lantern illuminated a narrow path through the mist, leading into a hollow tree root. Shadows clawed at him, but could not follow fully. The path ended in a cavern, walls glittering with mineral light, free of the carnival's darkness. "The carnival cannot exist where fear is not fed," the child said. "Leave it behind." Marcus nodded. The whispers peaked, then vanished. Lanterns flickered out, the children dissolved into mist, finally free. He emerged into the forest as dawn broke. Hollow Creek Carnival was gone, only a rusted arch remained, waiting for the next victim. Marcus's heart pounded, but he felt alive, whole. A single lantern pulsed in the distance, then disappeared. Some places never vanish completely. But with courage, they can be left behind. Marcus never returned. Yet sometimes, when fog rolls over Hollow Creek, he hears the faint carnival tune, a reminder that the echoes of the past are never fully gone.